G'day and welcome to Daily Insights and Storytellings with me, Moon Willow. It's lovely to have you all on again today, and I'm interested to see where the energies take us today. Considering yesterday I wasn't really sure where I was going, and then something seemed to sort of take over and seemed to become quite insistent in talking about sort of being in the eye of the storm. I'm feeling today that there's been a little bit of a shift, that sort of like we're edging into unexplored territory, and sort of an unexplored landscape. And realistically, the only landscape that we can particularly look at sort of most fully is our own. Whilst I think about it before I sort of get lost in all of this, is just a reminder, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button for me if you haven't already. And if anything in this is really resonating for you and you know of other people that would benefit from the insights and the storytelling that I do, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, I'd really appreciate it. So back to where I was. So typical Gemini. I am a Gemini, and I'm highly aware of the Gemini energy that is ever present. And so communicating is normally something that I'm reasonably good at, but I find that we've got a lot of ums going off today. So clearly not as good at communicating as I initially thought. Within that, I do have, sorry, I am really aware of the ums and the ers and the all over the place, really. So bear with me and I will come back and come into focus. So going back to what I was saying initially, was that yesterday was very much centered on being in the center of the storm and how we can actually ground and anchor into Gaia, and so that we're not lost or cast adrift through this. Is very much the energies sort of, if I sort of step outside of my center of calmness, I can really feel and notice that the energies are really increasing, and that it is like stepping into a storm and being blown all about. So for me, it is very much what I was saying yesterday. It's really centering, really anchoring into Earth and Gaia, and really anchoring into that vibrational energy that feels more comfortable moving forward. So there is a lot of talk about sort of the third dimension and the fifth dimensional playing out, and how this is creating sort of two paths to walk on, as it were. And I know I've mentioned it before in regards to when I do individual storytellings, that I'm unable and would not like to try and predict the future because there's too many variables, and the way that at any given moment, as we get more information in, we can change our minds. And part of walking this particular earth is free will, that we do have free will to actually change our minds. And as we gather more information, we don't have to say set in a particular modality. We don't have to say set in a specific structure. And I think that sort of links in with yesterday's as well, talking about sort of going back and having a look at why we would choose sort of like a more stressful reality. Why would we choose to live in a fear-based reality where a lot of our rights and our humanity is taken away from us. And a lot of that is because of conditioning. We've been conditioned really from the time that we're born. And sometimes, I mean, I've spoken as well about reincarnation and coming back into this world time and time again. And I'm not asking you to necessarily believe that for yourselves, but I know that that is one of my truths, and it has that real authentic ring for me. So not only sort of from an ancestral point of view and a generational point of view, bringing in that sensation, and I know that yesterday I was talking about sort of like that anxiety and giving a cup of tea in stressful situations, that's handed down through the generations. So whether you believe in reincarnation or not, there is still that imprint there. We still carry forward our family belief systems, our family ideas and sensations. So if we live in a household or a society that is fear-driven and fear-based, and that the norm is to feel stressed out and that we need to be achieving this, that and the other to actually be worthwhile, a worthy citizen, then that is going to be our underlying landscape. That is going to be the underlying sensation that we will continue carrying forward without necessarily being aware of it. So now is the ideal opportunity to really take stock of where our responses and our reactions to situations are coming from, so that we can actually make an informed decision, or actually recognize that we don't have to be caught up in it, that actually we can still stay in that center and feel centered and anchored without getting lost and caught up in the turbulence that's going off around. And I know that I've spoken about within that of doing the meditations and grounding and shielding and protections. And that's essentially what it's to do, is to give us that space to breathe, so that we're actually aware of what comes in and actually recognize it for what it is, that it is sort of on the whole a gameplay, and actually have a real feel about what path we would like to walk. And what I've noticed over the past couple of years, especially these past few months, is that if you have a sense of the way that you would like to be, and you have a certain level of expectations as to what sort of experience you're going to have going into places, 90% of the time that's exactly what you're going to meet. And that just continues to reinforce that internal dialogue, that internal landscape, and we will continue to perpetuate it. Now, that can actually be a positive or a negative creation. One of the stories I remember reading about was that two people going into London, and one person's expecting a really good time and another person's expecting a horrible time. And because that's what they've put out to the universe before they've even got there, even if they go to the same places and speak with the same people, because of what they're giving out underneath is exactly what they're going to receive. So the person who expects a good flowing time gets that, and the person who expects a negative hard time will end up getting that. And it will take a lot for the experience to swap around, because that's what they're heightened to actually expect, a good or a bad time. So it's almost like that with the paths and the energies that are out there. So if we sit and listen to the negativity and the doomsayers and the fear-based rhetoric that's going off out there, if we continue to listen to that and expect that, that's what we will notice. But if we're sitting from a different space and go, okay, that's fine, we'll switch off the telly, and actually going to continue to walk in a manner that feels right to me, that will actually be backed up through experience as well. And it just sort of continues to split in that particular way. And I have a feeling that's part of where that 3D, 5D experience comes in. It's not necessarily that one set of people are just going to suddenly vanish, but their experiences are going to split. So as somebody sort of like is looking for the positives, looking for changes in the world that Animals are able to move more freely because we're not impacting their environments as much. That the birds will end up flying more because there's less pollution, things like that. That's what we'll continue to see and perceive. Whereas if we're looking for the negatives, that the world seems to be dark, that nothing's going right, that we're going to actually get ill, etc., that's what we're priming our internal world to actually receive. And we're more inclined to get that, because within that we'll start making bad decisions. We probably won't sleep very well, and lack of sleep will end up impacting our immune system, which will mean that we'll be more susceptible to the bugs that actually exist in the world. And that will actually reinforce our belief that that is the only way forward, and that's the only way is to live in the fear base. So on that particular note, I'm noticing this, it's very dark outside today. So I've noticed there's not a lot of light on this, but at the moment I don't feel the need to change it. And we've got the amethyst today. So we're going back up to third eye, and which really fits in with what I've just been saying. So our third eye is our inner knowing, our intuition, and it's really looking inwards into how we would like to progress forwards on the external level. So by actually taking a breath and actually really visualizing the type of world we'd like to live in, visualize actually receiving the light, that we're not going to be impacted by fear, things like that. That's what we end up creating. And as that starts filtering through all the way through the different layers, and that becomes also our unconscious and subconscious expectation of reality, that is the way that we're going to step forward, and that will reinforce it. So it also links in with our creativity and a joy of life, and having that ease of life. Because what will happen is, as we start to really vibrate at that level and really have an awareness of our intuition and the world that we would like to help create, then that's what we will actually start seeing and perceiving. And so like the trip into London, we will start expecting good things to flow. We will start noticing the synchronicities, that the people happen to be in the right place at the right time. The right sort of comment comes in and it really vibrates, and you're able to move forward. So that will help to actually take us in that momentum for walking down sort of what is known as a fifth dimensional path, that higher vibration that is more about nurturing ourselves and nurturing other people around us, nurturing our internal communication, nurturing the communication with others. So very much connecting up with our soul family and our higher self and our intuition. So going forward in that particular direction. So on that level, if you could focus on the cards for me, and we'll see. Whoop. Okay, we'll go with that one. See what else comes through. I'm also intrigued to see whether this actually does record because of the light. And then split the cards. I like the look of that pile for some reason. Okay, so the three cards that we've got today is the Star, the Whip, and the Anchor, which is quite incredible because I was talking about anchoring already. So the Star, everything's bright. Sorry, in my head I've got another sort of sidetrack going off, but it doesn't really pertain to this, so I won't mention it. So actually it is also, so within the third dimension, third eye, and sort of really connecting with our intuitive self, but also our spiritual family and our soul group. a lot has been sort of mentioned recently about star seeds and intergalactic stuff that's going off. So within this card, what it's prompting me to sort of mention is that a lot of us have got those connections. When we look up into the sky, we've got connections with other races, and sort of that those connections are going to we'll start to see them more. So as the light's coming in and we're going up that frequency into the fifth dimension, that it is clearing a lot of the debris and our previous held beliefs in sort of the third dimension of particular control mechanisms, etc. And so within this, what this is saying to me is sort of like, as we sit more within our third eye and visualize where we would like to see the world, the type of world we'd like to live in. And for me, that's very much a world that is about supporting each other, nurturing each other's talents and gifts, and actually being loving towards each other, and living in harmony, not just with each other, but also with the whole world, with Mother Earth underneath us, and four-legged and feathered friends, etc. But really sort of focusing in on being open to the possibilities of things that we were taught were improbable and unlikely. To me, there is scope for everything to be possible and nothing to be possible. But it's again going back, and I've said this on several occasions, it's going back into ourselves and really feeling what resonates and what feels authentic to us, and what connects within. Even if we can't sort of find from a third dimensional level a scientific reality or a scientific basis for what we're thinking or feeling, and actually suspending that belief and really feeling into what's sort of sitting more comfortably. And just so even the star in this is not necessarily alien races, but really those deep connections we have with each other that we can't really explain, that we know. We meet people that we feel like we've known for centuries and have no real explanation for that, but they just resonate and just connect on such a deep level. And for me, that's what this is about, the star card's about. So going into the whip, which is quarrels and arguments. So I have a feeling that sort of over the next few weeks at least, that we may be entering a space where we could end up quarreling with other people, because there is going to be this shift. We have no real control over that, but how we deal with it, how we cope with it, is very much part of is something that we have control over. And it's as we're being pushed into old programming and that fear, or if we haven't cleared why we prefer to have a stressful life, or why it feels safer to stay within a fear mode, because it makes sense, we can end up quarreling with ourselves and others that are trying to support us. And it could be that sort of me speaking about races that are not part of humanity, as it were, that could provoke sort of like that negative feeling within you, or sort of like it may provoke you to feel like you need to quarrel with me, and that's okay. But again, I'm just saying what is feels right for me, and I'm not putting my world onto yours. I'm just trying to express my world in the hope that it resonates for you, so that it can sort of help sift through for you. But the quarrels, we're going to be pushed a lot. There is so many things out there, and as I said about sort of turning off the telly, that we're being told what to do on a regular basis, and how we're meant to react and how we're meant to respond. Now, this is nothing new. There is always been the societal norms that sort of put a structure in that we're meant to react in certain ways given a certain situation. And if you have the audacity to feel or want to believe something different, it's always difficult to fight for your right to do that. So I think a lot of what this is saying is that you don't need to. It's to be aware of that. And back to what I've been saying for the past couple of days, is it's almost like it's the darker energies, as it were, are actually trying to force us into that sort of knee-jerk response and that sort of argumentative response. So my feel for these cards is to just be aware of that, acknowledge that that exists in you, breathe through it, but not react in that way. Unless it's to really understand why you want to bite back, why you would like to enter into the argument. What is that proving to you? How is that helping you moving forward? Because it's not, sometimes arguments are justified. I'm not suggesting they're not, but we really need to understand the cause of why we're reacting in that way, so that we can actually move forward without not being in blind rage, that we actually have constructive arguments and constructive information to go forwards, so it becomes more of a debate as opposed to an argument, so that actually helps to create and move forward the collective, as opposed to stopping communication. And I think that's a lot of it. Is a lot of this is to prevent there from being a dialogue, to prevent there being a communication, because if we're from two polar opposites, it's very difficult to meet in the middle and actually understand the other person's world viewpoint. And that is critical and key for actually, for my opinion, of moving forward into that fifth dimension, that it is about, and I've said this before, about having our own authentic truth and being able to speak our authentic truth in a manner that we're going to be heard properly, and be aware that there are times when that's not going to happen. So, and then the last card, which I've already mentioned, is the anchor. So for all that it's feeling a little bit lighter today, and the full moon, we're in the middle of the full moon, which normally goes over 3 days, but it's fullest, I believe, today, is that it's the completion. So it's going to be the ending of the arguments, and hopefully the ending of the arguments, but more is going to come to light. But it's really anchoring into our truth, is what's just come through to me. So very much understanding and recognizing why we have our own specific belief systems, where we've actually got those from. Is it just that we're regurgitating stuff we've been told in the past, or do we fully believe it? Do we fully feel the information that's coming through to us? Does it feel authentic? But it is really about anchoring into Gaia, anchoring into our truth, anchoring into our authenticity, anchoring into our sovereignty, knowing that we are sovereign individuals, that we do have the freedom of choice that cannot be taken away from us no matter what is said. We have got the freedom to believe what we want to believe, what we choose to believe, and we can keep that. We don't have to lose that, and that is a part of being a human on this planet. So really anchoring into ourselves, into our truth, into our authenticity, into our sovereignty, but also anchoring into Gaia, but also being flexible enough, knowing that as we get more secure in ourselves, as we get more secure in our own truth, our own authenticity, our own grounding, that actually we'll be more open to discussions with other people. And I've always found in talking or speaking with other people, it's with an open mind, that it gives me more information. It makes me understand why I have my own internal belief systems and why that makes sense to me. And by communicating with other people from that solidity within, means that I'm not fearful, or I don't feel like threatened. I don't feel threatened. That's the words I was looking for. I don't feel threatened by another person's opinion. It just helps me inform my own internal understanding. And it may be through having sort of like a conversation with someone who's from, and I've actually tried doing this for many years in my life, is that I will pick a debate, or I'll pick an argument with someone and take the complete opposite side, just so that I can fully understand why I actually have that belief system, or what it is about that actually helps me feel that that's true and real for me, and that's my authenticity. So it's like with the grounding, and the more grounded we are, the more we can actually fly off into other dimensions, but actually on a constructive level, and bring that back in. It informs us because we're doing it from a place of solidity. So this, for me, with the anchoring, is as we anchor into our internal intuition from our third eye, and we anchor into the type of world we would like to actually live in and be a part of, then that is going to be anchoring into the fifth dimension and being able to continue to walk that particular path, if that's the path you choose to walk. So I'm hoping that's making sense to people with our beautiful banded amethyst, and we'll see what sound comes through today, what vibrational energy we would like to come through today. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope that makes sense to those of you that are watching this. As I said at the beginning, if you haven't already, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button. If what I'm saying is resonating and making sense to you, and you know other people that would appreciate it, don't hesitate to share. I would really like that. If it also, the other side of what I'm doing at the moment is I do individual storytellings that may help clear up sort of why you're repeating patterns, or how the current energies are actually impacting you on a personal level. I will put the information in the description box for you to contact me if you would like to. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Unfortunately, judging by the sky out there, I'm unlikely to see the full moon tonight, which I'd be quite disappointed about, because as my name suggests, I really love the moon and the moon energy. So I'm hoping at least to get to catch a glimpse of her tonight. But judging by the cloud cover, it's highly unlikely. But in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Love you all. Bye.